Hello, this is Truth Be Told Transformation, and I'm Bonnie Burkert, here to share tools for transformation to live your highest truth. The Truth Be Told Network loves to talk about ancient civilizations, and one of the things that I'd like to talk about today with our honored speaker, honored guest, Govind is looking back at the ancient yogis. And again, way, way back. I mean, ancient civilizations, perhaps reaching back as old as 50,000 years in some of the studies that people like to look at. And so where does yoga fit into the ancients? I don't know. Let's find out. Welcome, Govind.
Hi, everybody. Namaste. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for inviting me to be on your show. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, I've been wanting to have you on for a really long time. I know Govind from here in the Los Angeles area as a wonderful singer, and I try to chant with you. Sometimes those chants are a little above my head. So you are very, very immersed in some of these ancient mantras, which will perhaps talk to us, speak to this subject of different yogic paths. So take us as far back as you know yoga goes.
Well, this is a very interesting conversation because in the West, we have a more linear view of time. Now, in the East, time is not linear. They see time as cyclical. And within this notion of time, there are actually 4 ages, and these ages are called the yugas. And there's 4 yugas, starting with the very first yuga, which is called the Satya Yuga. And if you've studied yoga, commonly, many people take teacher trainings and they dive a little bit into the Patanjali's 8-limb path, and within the yamas and the niyamas, you hear this word satya, and satya is truth. And the first of the 4 yugas is known as the Satya Yuga. And from the Satya Yuga, there's 3 yugas successively after that, leading to what we're in right now. The 4th yuga is what's called the Kali Yuga. And it's said that dharma, or righteousness, declines in each yuga. So if the Satya Yuga, which was commonly called the Golden Age, the age of truth, we are now in this 4th age, which is called the Kali Yuga. And this Kali Yuga is commonly described as the age of hypocrisy, the age of darkness, and the age of quarrel. And I usually say, if you're not sure what the Kali Yuga is all about, all you have to do is turn on the news for about 30 seconds and you get a very clear view of why this age that we're living in
which is about all I can take of it. So yes.
I agree.
I get that. Okay, this is really great. And so let me dig into a few of the things that you said. And I'm so fascinated knowing about the yugas.
It's fascinating. I agree. It's absolutely fascinating.
And I really appreciate you bringing this up. So, first of all, Satya Yuga, the age of truth. Yay, truth be told. Okay, so that's good. I'm just had to make sure that registered with people. But do these correspond to the precession of the equinoxes? Do you know about that? And our cycle around the Milky Way galaxy?
I am not sure about that. I don't think so, but I don't want to offer any misinformation.
Well, so maybe take a look at that.
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we'll look into that. And if you check our YouTube channel, you can leave comments there, or I will leave a comment there to find that out. But how long are these different ages?
Very, very long.
Okay, like 25,000 years long?
Like how many?
25,000.
Like, no, this Kali Yuga that we're in is said to only be around for another 428,000 years.
Oh, no. We're not going to get through that anytime soon. So, exactly. Okay, so wow, this is crazy.
So the notion of time is so much more expansive than our, 2,000, 2,500-year-old Western view of time. And the interesting thing is that it just keeps happening. Like all of this has already happened before infinite times, over and over and over again. And here we are once again in this Kali Yuga, in this age of hypocrisy, quarrel, and darkness, which after this, things are said will get so bad that what happens again is that there's a transformation back into ultimately the Satya Yuga again, into an age of rebirth and truth. And again, what I had mentioned, this golden age of time.
Right. So we're basically we're spiraling downwards so that it can be reborn
again.
Any guess, any thought on how this corresponds with Atlantis out of curiosity? Has that ever come across your path?
I don't know much about that.
Well, you're a yogi, and it's not something that you're necessarily studying. I understand. And the reason I bring that up is that Atlantis did have what I understand, and I know Tony Sweets had many more speakers than I have had on about that subject, but they went through their golden age, and then everything spiraled into negativity. And then there was a cataclysm, and we don't quite ever even know what happened in that history there of that ancient civilization, which, of course, we don't quite have proof of, but we're looking. So I'm just curious. It seems like it could potentially apply.
Yes. Now, there are many different views on how long these yugas are, but they are, some people say we're coming out of the Kali Yuga very soon. Other people say that no, there is a very, very long time left in this Kali Yuga. So again, I'm surely not a scholar in any way, shape, or form. I consider myself more of a bhakta, a devotee. So I'm not so researched on all of this, but this is the view, these yugas, the cyclical view of time over and over and over again. Now, being that this is called the ancient paths of yoga, I think we can segue into this a bit, that traditionally there are 4 main paths of yoga. And this is what Krishna kind of delineated on 3 of these main paths of yoga. And the 4th is from this great sage named Patanjali. Now, Krishna's teachings on this came in the previous yuga, which is called the Dvapara Yuga, many, many thousands of years ago. So these 3 main paths that come from Krishna's teaching and are recognized as these most 3 traditional ancient paths of yoga. One is called Karma Yoga, which is the path of selfless service, or commonly described as the path of action. The word karma means action. And it said the highest form of action is action without attachment to the end results of your actions, that you're doing your actions from a place of loving service and devotion. So that's karma yoga. The second form of yoga is what's called jnana yoga, or sometimes called jnana yoga. We don't really have these syllables in the English alphabet, but it's Jnana, but commonly pronounced with like a G and an N, jnana yoga, jnana yoga, or sometimes people call it just jnana yoga. So this is the path of wisdom, the path of discernment between what is transient and what is eternal. And so we use what's called viveka, our inner discernment of our own intellect, to discern between what's relatively real, which is real with a small r, versus what's absolutely real, real with a capital R. And as a yoga, we start to follow more of that, what could we call it? Capital R, divinely real. And we begin to live in relation to what's truth, capital T truth, that which is eternal. The third of Krishna's teachings on yoga is what's called bhakti, which is where I've put most of my focus. And this is the path of devotion and love. It's the yoga of the heart. And we can talk more about all of these if you have questions. I just wanted to put all of these out there. And then the fourth yoga comes from Patanjali, and it's called Raja Yoga. And it's commonly described as the yoga of meditation. Raja means kingly, king, or the kingly path, or the royal path of yoga, which is the path of meditating on the inner self as our true nature. So these are the four main paths.
Okay, so it sounds interesting and love them all. And as I'm sure you do too. Do you feel that these different paths of yoga have evolved over time to be more in use for people? I guess what I'm trying, this is my roundabout way of saying, do you think people are falling down on their Raja Yoga because they're too busy?
Well, first of all, I think it's good to backtrack. What is yoga?
Okay, yes.
What is this word yoga? It's such a word that's penetrated so deeply into our modern day world and society. Well, what is yoga? Well, one thing that we do know is that yoga does not mean exercise, which we in the West have taken it and made it into a form of exercise. Yoga, although the yoga asanas, the different poses that we do in yoga, these are a part of yoga practice. That's not what yoga really is. Yoga translates commonly into the word union. And when we say union, we mean union between our inner self and the divine, our divine self. Our inner self is called the Jiva Atman, and our divine self is called Brahman. So the inner divinity and the supreme divinity, we are attempting to find union between the two. This is the traditional definition of yoga. Many people call it the union between body, mind, and spirit as well too. So that's another definition of yoga as well.
It's great. Thank you for backing us up a little bit and getting us back to basics.
No problem.
Let's break down the different ones a little bit. So the karma yoga. I know you mentioned the word karma means action. I think a lot of people always use that word karma perhaps incorrectly. So I invite you to maybe clarify a little bit more so that the meaning of karma.
Yes. Karma means action, but it points us towards the law of cause and effect. What you sow, you shall reap, commonly described as well too. So you take an action and there will be some kind of ripple. Your action is the cause, but the ripple effect in the universe, what comes from that action is this law of cause and effect. How could we describe this in really simple ways? How about you eat something really spicy and your mouth starts to burn, right? I mean, how simple is that? Cause and effect. Now, it's not always as simple as that, but that at the foundation is what we're talking about when we talk about karma. Now, this practice of karma yoga, this is commonly described as the yoga of selfless service. Okay, the yoga of selfless service, which means, as I had described before, the game essentially is to unwind all of our karma. And as we unwind all of our karma, we become spiritually free. All right? So every action creates this law of cause. Within our actions, this law of cause and effect is present. So we accumulate karma through our actions. Now, what's taught in the Bhagavad Gita is only actions that are done from a place of selflessness, that there's no ego within these actions. These actions are done just from a place of pure love and presence and selflessness, that these actions don't accrue more karma. So in that, we're beginning to shed, as we start to live more and more and more of our life in this way of selfless service, we're not accumulating more and more karma in our life, but we're actually able to shed karma. And what happens is that we feel more spiritually free. We feel more light. We feel more connected to our inner self. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I was thinking, even also you were saying about selfless service and how we approach anything. I mean, it could be something, I love to use driving analogies, even if it's something about letting a person merge into the lane, for goodness sakes. They're trying to get out of a parking lot. Help them out. But maybe that will help you in the future. I don't want to simplify it because I really, really do believe in this and like it. But I think there's also some beautiful examples of just, I don't know, right action out there. Kindness, mindfulness, right? I mean,
I think you really hit it with this word, right action. And the way and right action is living in a selfless way. Not feeding our own ego, but living for the highest good and doing what we can to be what could we say, an uplifting vibration to all.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's talk about how these all work together.
Okay.
Right? So I feel like the bhakti yoga, for example, and I'm kind of looking on my list here a little bit about what we talked about, but I feel like the bhakti yoga can get you into that zone to help you be, I don't know, just more in peace and less fearful and thus less aggressive as you approach the world.
Well, let's talk about bhakti a little bit. Okay, bhakti is this path of love and devotion. And how can we describe what this path of bhakti yoga is all about? And what I would say is bhakti is about your own personal, intimate, loving, devotional relationship with the source, whether you call it God, infinite, Krishna, Ram, Allah, Jesus, Adonai, doesn't matter what you call it. But there is some all-pervasive divine energy that is the source of all life, that is flowing through every single, that is omnipresent, that is everywhere at once in every moment and every breath that we take. So bhakti practices are about getting more intimately close with that divine being, if we could call it, the universe, so many different names.
Source.
And in bhakti, though, very interesting, the really central way of relating to the divine is to serve the divine. And how do we serve the divine? By serving God's children, which is essentially serving each other. So commonly we think of these three words in Bhakti Yoga: love, service, and devotion. Now, I grew up Jewish, but I didn't really like going to Hebrew school or anything like that so much. But I do remember some old teaching: love thy God with all thy mind, all thy heart, all thy soul. Something like that. As I said, I wasn't very good in Hebrew school as a kid. But that teaching, love thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, all thy soul, that's Bhakti Yoga.
Right.
For me, it took going essentially all the way across the world to the other side of the world to be able to receive that teaching, to really get it and to start practicing it. I couldn't really hear it from what came through Judaism for me, but now I get it, and how I got it was through bhakti, and that's what bhakti is all about. To love the divine,
That's
to
so
let your
beautiful.
heart fully open in that love.
I think that it's interesting because I was certainly brought up in Western traditions and, Protestant, going to church. And it just, I think there are a lot of the same messages, and really that's what we want to convey here. And that we don't have to be yogis, certainly not on the mat or singing mantras, to have this feeling. This comes from a lot of different studies and paths, spiritual paths, right? But I feel like the freedom that comes from some of what we do in yoga, how we study in yoga, I feel that freedom really can help quickly lift one up.
I agree. Look, the name of the podcast, Truth Be Told Podcast, there's an old ancient saying: truth is one, the paths are many.
Yay.
So many paths can lead you to that same truth, whether you follow it from a yogic view, whether you follow it from a Christian, Judeo-Christian approach, whether you even follow it from more of a scientific approach. Truth is one, but the paths are many. As the great Ramakrishna, you see him behind me, I believe all the way on this far picture right here. You can't see it so well, but he said, all rivers lead to the same ocean.
Yeah.
Which I think is essentially the same thing.
Right? Exactly. No. That is really great. So let us talk, while we're talking about bhakti, one of the reasons I had Govindas here with me on this particular episode is because we've got a wonderful upcoming event in Southern California where you and I have met through the years, Govindas, and it is called Bhakti Fest. And you're going to be teaching, you're going to be playing music. I think you're going to be teaching yoga. Yes, you are, right? And also, I saw you doing a workshop for the men's tent, which I think is great that exists. And I don't know if there's anything you'd like to hint at on any of the things that you're going to be doing, and letting people know a little bit about the experience in Joshua Tree that's been happening for, I believe this is year 13 now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe it's year 13 as well too. And Bhakti Fest is an incredible yoga, music, and higher consciousness festival. It happens, I believe since 2009, actually, in Joshua Tree, which is a vortex and a very mystical place. Anybody, of course, that's been to Joshua Tree before, there is real energy, Shakti there. So it's been put on for every year, but we didn't have it the last 3 years because of the pandemic. This is the first year it's back on again. And it is a 3-day yoga and music festival. From the moment you wake up in the morning till the sun goes down, there's many, many different yoga classes going on at the same time. There is a main stage where there is everything from kirtan, which is yogic chanting, to reggae, to singer-songwriters that all have a spiritual uplifting message. And that goes from about, I think, 9 or 10 in the morning all the way till, I believe, around 2 in the morning. So all day deep into the night as well, too. And then as well, too, there are workshops that are happening all day and into the evening as well, too. Everything from breath work. There is a sound temple, which is sound healing that's going all day and late into the night as well, too. Workshops from many great spiritual teachers that are coming in from India, and of course, teachers here from the US as well, too. And it is an opportunity for people to come together and remember, as my guru, you see a picture of Neem Karoli Baba right here. He says, love is the strongest medicine. And this is like a big old love fest. People are coming together in the spirit of love, in the spirit of devotion, in the spirit of unity, in the spirit of connection, in the spirit of being in the heart with each other. And there's typically a few thousand people there. And it's just, it's highly transformative because so many souls are coming together, and because there's so many people together focused on the same thing, which is love and devotion and unity. I can honestly say every time after the festival I leave, I feel like I'm a better person leaving than how I walked into it. There's just this kind of cleansing and purifying of the heart that comes with so much satsang, community, chanting, kirtan, yoga, meditation, and wisdom leaders sharing great teachings.
Beautifully said. And I love the shout out for the energies of Joshua Tree, because I just feel that there. I was out there a couple of weeks ago looking at the meteor shower, and I went out there crawling. I was wiped out. I was tired and overworked. And the last thing I needed to do was drive in a car to get out there. And I felt so good afterwards. It was amazing. It had nothing to do with rest. It just was rejuvenating location, and I think the night skies also. So, well, I look forward to seeing you out there for sure. So, any hint at what the men's tent is like for any of our
Oh my gosh!
viewers?
Well, I can't
what's that like?
say that. That is completely off limits. I'm just kidding.
Come on, I want to.
Although, when we do enter into the men's tent, we do take a vow that whatever is said in the men's tent stays in the men's tent. It's not, it's this container that we hold so that we can be vulnerable with each other. And my feeling, there's this tremendous, I think we all are experiencing it and feeling there's this tremendous awakening that's taking place on the planet right now. And I believe in my heart of hearts that men are playing a very important role in this awakening, and it's this incredibly important time for us to shift out of the shadow masculine or the toxic masculine and remember the divine masculine. And so what we do is we have a lot of time for sharing, and as well too, we communicate on what this is all about, where our struggles are, and how we can heal those broken parts and places and aspects of ourselves so that we can move forward from not, let's say, creating more toxic energy in this world, but more light in this world and more goodness in this world. And, we touch on everything from relationships to sexuality to addictions and many other things. And we're all going through such similar things. That's what's really interesting. And we're all teachers for each other. And typically anytime anybody shares, I feel like I've been through exactly the same thing, or I'm going through the exact same thing in my life. And so just hearing others share about their struggles and movement towards a better place in their life, it helps us to find our way through our challenges as well too.
Conscious community. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. And thanks for giving us a little hint of what goes on in the men's tent. But I love that exists out there. So, and that you are a part of that for sure. So I'd like to look at our what we discussed with the 4 different ancient paths of
yugas,
yoga.
Yes.
So, we could go the yugas, but I was going to ask you a little bit more about Raja and Jnana.
The 4 different paths of yoga.
Do you feel like, in our final moments, it sounds like, we need to be knowing about all of these. And I just wanted to see if you, again, tools for transformation here. So help our listeners know, any little ideas you have around these other paths.
Well, tools for transformation is such a I love those words together. And this is what yoga essentially is. Yoga practices are tools that have been handed from the ancients to us through the generations, so we can get out of our own crap, And what is it that's creating so much challenge is that we identify with our small self, that we identify with our egos and our stories and all of these illusions and delusions of mind that we believe to be true, which aren't necessarily true. So in this path of Raja Yoga, it's essentially the path of meditation. And in meditation practice, we can begin to, shall we say, unglue ourselves from our thoughts. So we can then begin to just observe our thoughts and watch our thoughts from somewhat of a distance. Because the issue is that we believe our thoughts to be true. You maybe have heard this teaching. Don't believe your thoughts. Don't believe your thoughts. Well, to create space, we pull our awareness back so we can witness our thoughts from a distance. Is that ungluing ourselves from our thoughts and the stories that we tell ourselves? And then as we begin to unglue ourselves and create space, we can begin to see that so much that's moving through our head is not real. It's just fantasy, is just imagination, is just ego stuff running off. And when we get that, we can begin to let go of those old thoughts, stories, and identifications, and we can begin to choose new ways of perceiving ourselves and the world and our relationships and the work that we're doing that's more aligned with the deeper wisdom within. So this is what I believe is the gift of meditation and the path of Raja Yoga. I think the last yoga that we haven't talked about so much is this Jnana Yoga. Mm-hmm. And this is the path, as we mentioned, this path of discernment. There's this great teacher named Ramana Maharshi, a great Indian saint guru. And you see his picture right there. Old man with this beautiful white hair and beard. And he was considered one of the greatest Indian gurus and saints in the last few hundred years. And he used to teach this practice that is the essence really of jnana yoga. He would say, he called it the path of self-inquiry, where we begin to ask ourselves this question. We go into a meditative state and close your eyes, sit still, follow your breathing, and then you begin to ask yourself these three simple words. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And you start with the grossest aspect of your being. My body. Who am I? Am I my body? Not really. That's not really who I am, because the body will come and the body will go, and we will take on many bodies through the soul's evolution and journey. We get a little closer. Who am I? Am I my thoughts? No, I'm not my thoughts. These thoughts are just coming and going and coming and going. Am I my emotions? No, these emotions are like water. They're just transient, constantly in flow and flux. And so you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in, refining and refining this question, who am I, with your inquiry, until you get to essentially the spiritual self. Who am I? I am. I am that I am. I am pure consciousness. I am an eternal spiritual being. As my main spiritual teacher Ram Dass says, I am loving awareness. And we're asking this question, who am I, to get ourselves to know our own true nature, who we really are, not who we think we are, but who we really are. And as we begin to know who we really are, and we begin to identify with that truest self that is who we really are, we release all of the shackles of egoic imprisonment, essentially. We start to live with great clarity and great truth in the knowing of who we are and the knowing of who everybody is, that we just don't see people as objects or even just as humans, but we see everything as the play of spirit, as the play of God, that behind every body lies a spiritual being and a soul. And from that perspective, we can begin to love our brothers and sisters. We may not like their personalities and the actions that they take, but if we look deeper inside of them and see them as a spiritual being and a soul, we can actually love them for who they really are. But we must know who we really are ourselves first. Does that make sense?
It's powerful. And you know what's going, as I think about this, and again, you're sharing these tools. You told us about these 4 paths of yoga, and you're giving us these tools. And I'm thinking about how you describe that we're in the Kali Yuga right now, which is maybe the darker, more challenging time. But maybe that's our opportunity, is to use these tools. We need them more than ever, right?
I love that. So when I was 20 years old, a dear friend shared with me this great mantra: all challenges are just gifts in disguise. And I've never forgotten it. And I agree 100% with what you just said. And this is an opportunity for us to lift out of the darkness and collectively move to a new way of being.
Thank you, wise teacher. No, this has been great. I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to seeing you in Joshua Tree.
Oh, I'm so excited, Bonnie. And everybody, you can go to bhaktifest.com if you are interested. And we look forward to seeing you there September 15th through the 18th.
And Govind Das is at bhaktiyogashala.com. Is that correct?
Yep, bhaktiyogashala.com, or Instagram if you just type in my name, Govind Das, it'll pop up.
That's great. Yes, because you do a lot of online workshops as well as retreats to faraway places that sound like a lot of fun as far as going and finding that refined energy in beautiful spots. So it's great. Thank you so much. This has been very enlightening, and I really appreciate you taking us way back to look at really just such a different aspects of yoga, but also breaking down the basics of yoga too. Just to remember, align with the divine.
I love it. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see y'all soon.
Harayam. Thank you. This has been Truth Be Told Transformation, everybody, and I'm Bonnie Burkert. Don't forget that Tony Sweet has his show live on Fridays at 3 p.m., and everybody should definitely check in with him and see who he's talking to and ask him lots of hard questions. We are here for the conscious community to share all kinds of different thoughts and ideas. Robert Hensley has the Minuteman Report with up-to-the-minute ideas that he's researching, and we also have Truth Be Told in Espanol, Se habla verdad, see? I've got Tony here, so I'm double checking. He's checking my Spanish pronunciation. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. And be sure to like and follow and let everyone know we're here. Until the next time, everyone, namaste.